everyone, it's Misty, and this week we're going to be making this awesome triple pinwheel quilt. Every once in a while I design a quilt that really surprises me, and this is one of those. I'm calling it triple pinwheel. It is so easy and there's no waste, which is just the absolute best. So to make this, you're going to need 6 different colors. I have used Windsor, Astral, and Breeze to give me this blue gradient, and then Primrose, Coral, and Red on the red side. You're going to need 3/8 of a yard of each of those, and then of your background you need 2 5/8 yards, and that's going to give you everything for the front. You're also going to need a squaring tool and of course your ruler and rotary cutter, so let's dive right in. So this quilt is super simple. The first thing you're going to do is you are going to open up each of your colors and you're going to cut them into 1.5 inch strips by the width of fabric. So I have one of each of those here laid out, and we're just going to make a bunch of strip sets. So you're going to sew those long strips. I've already cut a little bit off of this one, just one after the other in the same order every single time. So I wanted it to kind of go dark to light, where the lightest is in the middle. And so that's what you're looking for. Once you have that strip set ready to go, I'm just going to press this so it's nice and clean. Make sure it's going to lay nice and flat for us. And then we can subcut this into our rectangles, and that's going to be step number 1. And so this should measure 6.5 inches, and it does. And I want to cut, actually I need to flip this around because I'm right-handed. So 6.5, and then I need to come over 3.5 inches, and that's going to be the size of our rectangles. Just make sure I have this all straight on here. And then you can just cut your whole strip set. So there's 1, 2, you'll just make your way all the way down. And for each one of our blocks, we're going to need 4 of these. There we go. All right. So now, up next, you're going to take some 3.5 inch background squares, and let me grab a pencil here because we are going to mark a couple of lines. First, we're going to mark a line diagonal, corner to corner, on both of these. And then we're going to measure over 1/2 inch from that line that we drew and draw another line. There we go. So now I have those prepped and ready. So we are going to grab our little rectangle unit that we made, and we're going to start by laying this so that our corner to corner is going to intersect the middle of our set. So we're going to sew right on that side and then come back and sew on the opposite line, directly on the lines that we marked. So I'm going to move my needle over to the middle because that just makes it a little bit easier to sew on those drawn lines. Okay, so once we sew on that first line, we can go ahead and sew on that second line that's 1/2 inch away. Again, right on that line. Okay. So once we have stitched on both of those, we can take our ruler and we're going to cut right in the middle of those 2 stitched lines. There's my rotary cutter, so that we have a 1/4 inch seam allowance left on both sides. There we go. And we can just set this one aside for now, and we're going to press this back before adding our other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and finger press this so I can show you what you want to watch for. So when you're placing your other square on, you want to make sure that the first line that goes point to point is matching up with the corner, and the extra line is always towards that outside edge. And so that's what we're looking for here. And so now we can go ahead and stitch on both of these lines again. So let's go ahead and do that. Just make sure it stays lined up before we get going. There's our first line, and then come back and do the second. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and trim this apart as well. And now I can press this open, and I'm also going to press open these two little half square triangles that I have left. So let's take this to the pressing mat. Begin just by rolling this back. There's our little flying geese unit. And now we can press these. Actually, I need my seam to go the other way. So press to the dark side. That one. And because we are trimming these off of the opposite sides, you're going to have one blue and one red. And that is correct. That's what you're looking for. All right, so now that I have all of these pressed, this is actually the block that we're going to be turning it into. So this part I can just set aside for now, and I need to use these to make this little secondary flying geese unit. So we are going to square each of these to 2 inches. So I have my block lock. And what I did is I kind of used where the medium blue and the light blue match up to be the top of where I can cut. If I did that every time, then I could still get my 2 inches, and it made all of these match up really nicely. So I'm just going to line this up here with that intersection and trim this off. And then we can rotate this around. Again, looking for that 2-inch mark, keeping it in line both directions. And trim, and trim. So there's that one ready to go. And so we need to do the same thing with our red. So I'm going to line that up, and we're just going to eliminate that lightest shade and trim. And we can spin and slide this down to 2 inches square. All right. And so now we're going to put these together just like so and make this secondary little flying geese unit. So we'll just put those right sides together and sew down this side. So let's bring this over to the machine. I need to readjust my needle because I had it in the middle. I want to make sure I'm back to my 1/4 inch mark. So be sure to keep that in mind. Okay. Now I can go ahead and press these open as well. Just want it to lay nice and flat. There we go. There is our little flying geese unit. And so this should measure 2 by 3.5. And so we are going to pair this with a 3.5 by 5 inch rectangle. And so I like to have one of my blocks that I am watching all the time. So I'm just going to sew this to this side with my flying geese pointed in towards that background rectangle. And we can stitch this down with our 1/4 inch seam. Okay. Now we'll give this a press. All right, so then once that is pressed, we can just match this up with our large flying geese unit. Again, we want to make sure the point is going in towards the middle of the block. So we can just put those right sides together and sew down this long side. We're going to make 4 units in this exact same way, 4 quadrants to assemble into our block. We take a few stitches, make sure this is all lining up. Beautiful. All right, give it one last press here. Just make sure that is all laying nicely and we don't have any tucks hiding in there. All right, so here are our units. They come together so fast. And like I said, we are just gonna pair 4 of these up. So I have 2 that I've sewn together here. And so we are looking for this to pinwheel. So let me, red to the center. I had to look at it a couple times. Sometimes the angles can be challenging, but we want the red to go to the middle. So we're just gonna sew the 4 of these together like a 4 patch, and that is your block. It's as simple as that. And let's talk a little bit about that surprise that I mentioned. So when I made this, I anticipated this secondary pinwheel. What I didn't know is that it would be the perfect size that came from that cut that we made off of our flying geese unit, so that was no waste. I thought I would have to make extras, so I loved that. And then I also loved, once you put the blocks together, you get this kind of background pinwheel that takes shape as well, which is why I called it triple pinwheel. So for this size, I put 1, 2, 3, 4 by 5 down, and I quilted it with stars and stripes. It ends up 48 by 60, which is just perfect for a lap or a picnic quilt, but you could obviously make this bigger if you wanted. I just love this quilt. I think it came together so fun. I can't wait to see you make it, and I'll see you next time on At Home. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching At Home. We're so excited to be almost 1 million quilters strong here at Missouri Star. And so if you haven't already joined our family, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of all of our future tutorials, and we'll see you soon.